Well, welcome back. Um, yeah, I say this every time. I'm like, man, surely there's something else you want to say. I mean, quite frankly, it goes back to this: is it not sufficient? Can't say nothing now. Uh, Meaning, I always think, man, is there something else you want to do outside of just me going just simply to the next chapter in John? And basically, God just says, is it not sufficient? Done. I mean, that kind of ends the argument right there, don't it? So there's a couple other things I want to break. I want to bring out with it. Very short chapter verse wise, but it might be one of the more packed chapters outside of the first one of John. These next two, my eyes ain't stop watering. These next two chapters, 15 and 16, like I said last week, right? He says, I'm done with the public. I guess I'm gonna really want to say, and I can't tell 1,000 people at once. Like, I need like a good group of people, which has been their purpose the whole time, right? These disciples, their whole purpose for this is to see and ultimately to get to this part. This has been their purpose because he needs 11 people, 12 really, but one's gone, right? Judas is gone to fulfill his purpose, really. And then you've got 11. Jesus said, I mean, I really need 11 people to really get it. Maybe not right now, but I need 11 people to be in agreement that at some point down the road, in maybe 5-10 years, we can all agree what John is going to write down in Matthew. They're going to write down what's happening. And I need 10 other people to be able to corroborate that story. But really, I need 11 people to really get it. Because, I mean, spoiler, Jesus is going to die and rise again, then ascend back into heaven. And then there's going to be that same 11, right, who abide. Go and tarry and wait for what Jesus says is the new thing. Go and tarry. Will you be endued with the power to start this thing that I already have told you about? And the already have told you about part is these chapters we're in. And Jesus saying, look, if you ain't preaching this or telling people about this, and kind of missing the whole thing. Because this is the fulfillment of where we sit. You. 2,000 years, man. That stuns me every time I really grasp it. I mean, almost everything you learn in history at school is less than 2,000 years ago. Like, this book, these words, this man existed, right? 2,000 years ago. And they still ring true, right? Like I said, God says, is it not sufficient? Words I spoke 2,000 years ago. God's basically saying, have they lost any fervor? They lost any power? Do they not matter anymore? Do they matter less? And the answer is no to all of it. It will never stop mattering, right? This is the point of Jesus. It's the shibboleth, right? How many people remember in Judges? It's shibboleth. I think it's Judges 12. They're at, because they're not Israel, right? They're just governed by people who claim to be, at times, to hear from God. They lead them astray. There's a couple good judges in there, but in a lot of time, it's a lot. Can the chosen people rule themselves as a body of people? And the answer is no. It's why they get a king, and God puts them on that. But they, in 12, they're at war with ultimately people at the time who kind of look just like them, right? And they're saying, how are we supposed to differentiate people from the opposition to us? Because we all kind of look the same. We speak the same language. And they come up with a word that, not come up with, but they figure out there's a word that we know how to say as the chosen people, and they can't say it right, no matter how hard they try. And it's the word shibboleth. They say it without the H, sibboleth. So right there, you would know when you say that word, you're not a part of us. And Jesus is saying, if you're not doing this, you're not a part. Very clearly. He even goes as bold to say, I will cast you out. You will wither away. You will serve no purpose. Take that back. You will serve a purpose for the opposition. You will serve Satan's purpose if you are not doing it right. Like I'm going to tell you. He knows John's going to write this book. So this is not just a warning to the 11 that's there. This is a warning for 2,000 years as it stands right now. That everybody who reads John, you can look and say, that's the way I'm supposed to do it. Right? So why don't we just start reading? Because a lot of what Jesus is talking about, we put the chapters in there, right? A lot of it is just Jesus just still in the same conversation. But at the end of 14, he says, let's move away from where we're at right now, wherever they're at. And they move to a different spot. Jesus starts immediately. Boom. Basically, if you ain't writing this down, you done missed it. 15, verse 1, he says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Immediately. I'd forgot, Peppa told me, says, remember I'd heard this before, but it is, Jesus says, I am distinctively 7 times in John. The last one will be in 18, I believe. But only 7 times Jesus tries to allude back to the burning bush, God, saying, this is what you can call me. Jesus says, I am, right? I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. I am the independent variable for people who are maybe newer to school. This is when you're doing, you're working things out in your head. There's got to be one thing that doesn't change. It's constant, right? Jesus says, I'm constant. Also, I am the center now of where this comes from. I'm where it all is going to sprout from. If there's no Jesus from now on, you're not in the right way. just instantly gives him a lot to unpack. The very first 5 words, this new conversation he's starting. If Jesus is not the center and your motive, then you're wrong. Hebrews even goes on to say there's new priest. There's a new high priest. And he gives the commandments. Meaning Jesus. Jesus, while I am the center, there is one who put me there. And there is one who oversees everything that comes out of it. He is the one who tends to the vines. Meaning God, after you get Jesus, it is God. It's this, Jesus, it's the same God, you know, but he's my Father. Right? We've talked about everybody saying, all these other religions saying Jesus said he never said he was God. Jesus is distinctly saying both in the same verse now, I am, right? Very powerful statement for him to make, in my Father. Saying, I am God, and although I'm God, the true God, he is the one that oversees everything. So, what does that mean for us, right? Verse 2 is what it means. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch, I may have skipped the verse here, but the line here. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. Like I said, Jesus is going to make it very clear. From now on, if you're doing it without me, you're doing it the wrong way. And what happens if you're doing it without me, without Jesus? You have no fruit. And it says, my Father, the one who tends to the fruit and everything that sprouts from the true vine, he will be the one to cast you away. Not I. Jesus says, I'm here the whole time. If you choose not to follow me, it will not be I who casts you away. It will be God. Jesus saying basically, you're not bearing fruit. You're out of it already. Jesus tells you that first before what happens if you actually do it the right way. Right? This is what it says in my Bible. He's going to tell you distinctly what happens when you do it the wrong way first. Meaning what? There is not multiple ways to do it right. There is only one way to do it right. There are many ways to do it wrong. Right? So 3. Actually, we're going to keep going. So we'll stay in 2. He says, if you bear good fruit, if we're doing things the right way, God not only lets you stay a part of it, he prunes you. He cuts it in such a way that you start producing more yield. Right? How do I get oranges, more oranges off the orange tree? You want more yield from your plant, from your stem. Jesus says, if not only do you get just the great accomplishment of doing it the right way, that's enough. But if you keep doing it the right way, God's going to come along and make sure you get more out of it. Maybe not more money or anything. You'll get more. You'll receive more than you really are wanting. I get tested at that point. more than I want. Not that I don't want it, but it's just not something I'm not thinking about acquiring more. I'm so focused on doing it right that I'm gaining more without even realizing what's going on. Right? So we'll go to verse 3. We might not even get through half of this at the rate we're going here. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Jesus said it last chapter, but if everything, I think it was maybe 13, says everything I've done up until this point is sufficient, right? You've already been over that, and he's telling you the same thing. If you believe that I'm the Son of God, at this point, remember Jesus hasn't died yet. Jesus said, okay, at this point, you're clean. You've done enough. That's all I can really ask of you right now. But more will be required. Just like he told him last chapter. It's sufficient for now. So don't fret about that part, but there's more to come. So verse 4, abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me. Jesus doesn't even leave that one open to interpretation. I mean, like I said, there's multiple ways to do this wrong. There's only one way to do it right. Don't abide in me. You're not going to bear any fruit, man. Verse 5. I am the vine. You are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. Like I said, where this lovey-dovey, all is well Jesus comes from is a bit perplexing to me. It's shocking. There's that aspect of Jesus exists, for sure. But Jesus draws a line in the sand again, multiple times. Jesus is saying, you're cut off. You cross this line. If you're not doing it like this, you're not a part. He's very clear in what he's saying. He's not just yelling at Pharisees anymore. Right? He's telling the disciples what to look for and to make sure that we're building a sustainable thing with Jesus. We're holding everybody accountable. We got to. You cannot just say and claim Jesus and you're a part of it. That's not how it works. Jesus is very clear. You're not in me. You're the wrong. 6. I'm telling y'all, Jesus is very clear. He's very stern. Right? He has no problem because he doesn't choose who comes to him. Jesus, what happens to you, quite frankly, almost doesn't matter to him. Jesus, I'm here constantly. And if you're not a part of me, then you have no access to the Father to begin with. Prove so. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered away. And they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. It's pretty clear to me. I ain't ever seen somebody take a branch off a tree, plant it in the ground, and another thing grows from it. That's not how it goes. How do oak trees grow? Big old oak trees produce acorns, fruit from the tree, drops. And what happens? More oak trees. Orange trees, how do they start? We all know that. Inside of the fruit is the prospect to make another. Right? There's a lot of metaphors in that we ought to be the fruit able to produce more like us. What he told him last chapter too. Said if you're not making more fruit, then you're serving no purpose. If you're not a part of the vine, if you're not attached to the root system, then not only serving no purpose is not even the truth of it. You serve a negative purpose. She says, you wither away. You just get gathered up and you get burnt off. You get thrown into the fire. You serve a negative purpose for fruit, for trees, for vines, for growth. Verse 7, if you abide in me, however, and my word abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. This is the second time Jesus has said this. In a way, basically, say, if you come correct, you can ask what you will, and it'll be given to you. Verse 8, by this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples. Because if you're asking in good faith with God, Jesus says, God will give it to you, not because you asked for it, but so that my Father may be glorified in it. I'm telling you, this is now the second time Jesus has said this part. But it's not so that you get it just because you've asked for it. You've got it because the Father ought to be glorified for it. 9, as the Father loved me, I also have loved you. Abide in my love. 10, if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. So verse 10 is very critical. Jesus saying, okay, what is the best way to stay on course? Do exactly what I did, which is hard. Paul says is impossible. Every man is born with sin, and you cannot possibly achieve what Jesus did. But the only thing you can do is abide in my words, Jesus basically, in my love, and with the Father, keeping the commandments. Right? It's relatively simple. Jesus said, okay, believe on the Son of God. And you'll ultimately, right, have to believe he died for your sins. Right? And then you'll have to keep the commandments. Keep the life. Right? Try to stay as close to Jesus as you can possibly manage. Paul tells you, you're born with the worst possible starting point ever. All of us are the exact same starting point. Now, there's the dilemma of when babies pass away or whatever. But I mean, once you become conscious enough, Paul says you can't help it but to sin. So Paul's saying your very nature as a human is to live opposite of what Jesus just told you. Subconsciously, you live opposite of Jesus. Like subconsciously, your body basically takes in oxygen, uses it in your lungs, and breathes out carbon dioxide. Right? Your body almost subconsciously does that. You don't even think about it. Paul's saying, but you don't even think about the fact that you're sinning. It's so, not even second nature, it is your nature to live opposite of Jesus. So then what's the remedy? Do as much as you could possibly do to live like Jesus. That's it. It's relatively simple, but we all know it's not. It's not easy, I should say, because there's parts all throughout this New Testament, basically saying if there's I forget where it's, but it even goes to the point where it says if you actually are not getting any pushback, if the devil's not after you, you're probably doing it wrong. Because if you're doing it right, he'll be on you like wine on rice. It's not easy. But it's just, like I said, Paul says, I make the choice in my mind, right? Because I can't get to the point, I'm sanctified, Paul says in Romans. I'm sanctified. And here's what sanctification is. I no longer desire to sin in my daily walk, but yet I do. So if I can't get so close to Jesus and to God that they can't make me sin, right? Because that's ultimately what Paul's asking himself. Is there a way I can get so close to God that I can make him make me not sin? Paul says that's not the case. That'll never happen. God will never make you not sin. So Paul says, so therefore, what is the case? That means I have control over whether or not I sin. I make the choice in my mind to not sin and to be in the Spirit. Because Paul says, it's not a spectrum. It is a page. I am either on page 1479 or I am on page 1480. I am either in the Spirit or I am not. Right? There's no in between. This part has nothing on it. Right? So, what's the case? Jesus says the remedy's me. What? There's so many things you can rack your brain. To unbelievers, I'm sure that is vastly insane of a concept. To think, brother, look, the whole thing I've just said to an unbeliever, look, you can't help but sin. You have to make sure in your mind you don't sin. Jesus and God will never make you not sin. You can never achieve this enlightenment that comes from other religions to where you don't feel the sin. That's not going to happen. Paul even goes to a certain point, I believe. It says, if you feel like you're not sinning, if you sin and you don't feel anything about it, that's worse. So you're telling an unbeliever all this. He's like, well, what's the remedy? He or she, whatever. It's live like Jesus. That's impossible. Exactly. But all you can do is do it with all you got. Because that's what it takes. There's other people that can attest to this. It takes everything you got. Thinking about it almost constantly. Right? We'll move on. Verse 11. These things I have spoken to you that my joy may remain in you and that your joy may be full. So Jesus is saying, okay, to be able to abide in me, you must keep my commandments. You must love me. You must love the Father. For what purpose? Right? You get to stay in it. You produce fruit, but you produce the joy that comes from God, from Jesus. The fruit you are bearing is not my fruit. I am producing the fruit of Jesus and of God. That's the whole purpose. You must be able to hear the things I'm saying, and I really hope this is the case. And you must be able to pick out that Jesus and God is the central message. All right? To what end? So that way you can produce more people who think of only Jesus and of God, in their love, in their commandments, and how much joy is in it. To what end? So that way they can produce more people who love God, who love Jesus, who love their commandments. Right? So what is the central commandment then? Goes up pretty plainly, verse 12. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. Well, so what is it? What's the point? Living with Jesus is obtainable. This is not Muhammad, Allah, sitting way up here, and you can never, ever hope to have a relationship. Jesus is friend. Why? Because we have a relationship. We have knowledge of one another. But what is the greatest show of friendship? To die in another friend's stead. Right, where the word instead comes from, but to die for another person. But Jesus has been very plain that through all this, and God made it clear too, right? He told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, and they get up, and they're about to do it. And God says, nah, ram in the bush. Why? No human is sufficient to save people of their sins. Only Jesus. Only one to ever come down to this earth and be sufficient enough to wash away sins is Jesus. And to do that, because you got a lot of this too is Jesus getting to the point where he realizes the end is near. This is a lot of it, right? Jesus kind of is just information dumping on these 11 people. Like, look, I'm about to die. I got to give you all this before I'm out of here, so to speak. And he's just dumping. He's just saying, look, it is the center of this is me, but in the real center is love, man. It's love, not out of duty or responsibility. It's love. All of that comes after with, if you keep my commandments and do whatever I tell you. All that's after. We got to start with a foundation of love, man. And that's where it's at. We are halfway. I don't even think halfway. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. So 15. So Jesus is going to explain what it's going to look like from now on with the new vine and the vine dresser and the fruits and what all is this looking like. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I've called you friends. For all things that I heard from my Father, I have made known to you. Pretty simple. What? He said, we're friends. There's a relationship. I care for you. But you are no longer servants. You no longer simply just serve. Right? 16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. A third time. Jesus, if you're really doing it right, you can ask and you'll get it through the Father. But Jesus, it's me who does it, the choosing. 17, these things I command you that you love one another. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory there. 18, we're going to get into where I believe we exist now, right? If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. I got a lot I want to say on that, but I'm going to try to finish this chapter and then get to something that I would like to say. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Jesus said, they already hate me. I mean, it's evident from the Pharisees and the non-believers and the religious leaders. They already hate me. So I'm telling you, because you dwell in me, they're going to then hate you. That's just the way it's going to go. Because the world loves its own. And now you are not of this world. Everyone that accepts Jesus becomes a part of something otherworldly in sci-fi terms, right? It is something not conducive from this planet. They exist somewhere outside, right? 20, remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecute me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. If you're doing it right and you're attached to the true vine, you're producing fruit. Never will you do the right thing and not produce fruit. Keeping with Jesus' analogy, right? Never will that not happen. In doing so, they're going to hate you because you constantly produce more fruit. That 2,000, like I said, 2,000 years, we stand in the midst of that fulfillment because there's fruit that never stops producing more fruit. Selfishly, like I said this a couple weeks ago, I selfishly cannot only think about myself getting to heaven. That is not the purpose. I get to go to heaven. That's whatever. It's not just for me, right? It's for everybody. It is my purpose to produce more fruit. Like I said last week, Jesus, a lot more is required now than just where you were at. This isn't about crowd control or, anything like that, or, being my bodyguards as we walk the streets. There's more that you 11 are required to do. You're required to produce more fruit. But the good news is, if you're doing it the right way, you'll constantly produce fruit. So that is your measurement. You are either producing fruit or you are not. You are either with God and with Jesus or you are not. A line very clearly drawn by Jesus and by God, saying this is the line. You cannot be on both sides. 21. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would have no sin, but now they have no excuse for their sin. pretty self-explanatory. But I mean, is Jesus? I mean, if I hadn't come, they would all act like they didn't have any sin, which they've said. As Pharisees, they've said they've had no sin. But Jesus is saying, but now that I've come, the reason they'll really hate me is because now they have no excuse. 23. He hates me. He who hates me hates my Father also. If I had not done among them the works which no one else did, they would have no sin. But now they have seen and also hated both me and my Father. But this happened that the word might be fulfilled, which is written in their law. They hated me without a cause. But when the Helper comes, a little foreshadowing, when the Helper comes, whom I shall send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth, who proceeds from the Father, he will testify of me. It will also bear witness because you have been with me from the beginning. I mean, I don't know what else to really say about that part. It is, Jesus, make no mistake. They're going to hate it. They'll kill you. They'll say whatever. But with that comes an extra hand to guide you in it. And it's this is, it calls him the Helper, this Spirit of truth. Jesus, but make no mistake, it's the third part now we know of the Trinity. But I like to put myself in these shoes. Like, man, what if I how do these people realize these things without having all these, church fathers of 2,000 years to be able to break down for us, right? Jesus, you've got the Father, obviously. Boom. You've got me, and you've got a Helper who's not from Jesus. The Helper does what the Father says. So you become, in Paul's words, joint heirs with Jesus and getting what? Access to the Helper, to the Spirit. I say this all the time, but Paul says there's almost obviously got to be a otherworldly plan going on. Nothing is happenstance. Paul already knows all of this to be true, but he's just trying to reconcile it in his mind. Like, okay, there's something else happening. I've already said, because if they had known Jesus was truly the Messiah, truly the Son of God, they wouldn't have killed him. But instead, the plan was so hidden to the ones who truly knew and were tapped in to the Word that he made Satan be the mastermind behind the whole fulfillment. It says that Judas becomes full of Satan, right? And goes out and does the fulfillment of what Jesus truly wanted. Or what the Father truly wanted of Jesus was to die as the sacrificial lamb. There's plenty of metaphors of what Jesus says about comparing himself to the lamb as their spotless lamb, as they had at the time, to be the atonement for their sins in a physical sense, and that Jesus became that spotless lamb. And Paul says there has to be something else going on. So I would like access to that if I'm allowed, please. Thank you. Because Jesus said I could. There's a lot going on right now in the world. None of it scares me, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even want to name it really, but there's just a lot going on. People getting on TV and you say Jesus, and it's just, they say everything about you. It's like, you're not even realizing the point of this thing. The whole point is supposed to be that I exist almost outside of Jesus, that Jesus is the purpose. That you're not supposed to be able to look at me and say, when I say, oh, all glory to Jesus, not just God, it is through Jesus I'm able to be in with God. Jesus makes that very clear. But when that happens, Jesus says, they'll hate you. So you see how it could get with you. If you're not in tune, you could be deceived just as easy as everybody else during this time who didn't know the word, but yet kind of knew it. Right? I kind of know Isaiah, but yet if you knew all of Isaiah, then you would understand Jesus is the fulfillment of Isaiah. Right? Well, I know all of Zechariah, I know all of these. Well, if you truly knew all of it, we'd understand that that's Jesus walking amongst us right now. It's Peter, right? I think it's 1 Peter 5. Peter, I'm just going to go there because I want to read those that last chapter in his thing here. Give me a second. I didn't mark it down. It's easier on here. So I've got on my social media feeds a lot of what I'm sure a lot of people have heard about with, evil people sacrificing children to Satan, right? And there's a lot that comes with it, a lot of heavy stuff. But it is, what honestly what gave me comfort? It was the opposite effect. It was like, okay, all of these people, whether in Hollywood or whatever, they sit on Capitol Hill, whatever, man, they've all somehow agreed that Satan exists. So if Satan exists, his adversary must exist. Right? And who's Satan's adversary? God and Jesus. You're sitting here talking about and praying to this false God. Not only are you saying you believe Satan is real, you believe that when you pray to and give these sacrifices to Satan, you get things from it. It says in here that will actually happen. Satan does have that kind of authority. Let's not get it twisted. He does not have the ultimate authority. But how do you, because everybody is, I'm sure, scared or whatever, but this is how do you exist within the confines of John 15? Because Peter is one of the 11 who was there. He's going to talk about it. And he's going to give you the ultimate, tried and true and founded way of living this life. 1 Peter 5, we'll start at verse 1. It's a salutations. So we'll kind of skim through this part. Therefore, I urge elders among you and your fellow elder and witness of the suffering of Christ, and one who was also a fellow partaker in the glory that is to be revealed. Peter said, yeah, I'm writing to your elders as an elder who saw Jesus. Shepherd the flock of God among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but voluntary, according to the will of God, and not with greed, but with eagerness, nor yet as domineering over those assigned to your care, but by providing or by proving to be examples to the flock. Right? And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. You, young men, likewise, be subject to your elders, and all of you clothe yourselves with humility towards one another, because God is opposed to the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. Wait. Am I not right? No, I am. Sorry. Therefore, verse 6, therefore humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, so that he may exalt you at the proper time. There's a lot to unpack there. I'm going to try to keep it brief and keep it within the confines of 15. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Cast all your cares. This is New King James. Cast all your cares upon him, for he cares for you. So here we go. How do you exist? Be of sober spirit. Be sober. Be vigilant. In the NASB, it says at least be of sober spirit. Be on the alert. Why? Because your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, is like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Nothing. It's hard, it can be tough to kind of live this way, absent of how the world lives. But Jesus, when I called you, you are no longer even a part of this world. You do not care how that world goes. Your care is to produce more fruit. But when you are in the back half of the verse, I almost wish it was switched away, but the back half of the verse tells you what Satan's going to do. So how do you defend against it? You are sober. There's a lot on that one. Sober. And you are vigilant. You are on alert. Peter says it is not an if, it is a guarantee that Satan will try to come against you. I only watch a couple of pastors, I'm going to be honest. Not because I think myself highly. There's a couple of guys I like, and they are just masters at this word. Because like I said last week, I believe a lot of what we're being required of now is almost just the basics. Just know the word. It's a lot of word, man. I had this discussion with my grandparents again this past week. Since I told you Tuesday, he's requiring you, God, I believe, to know this word. It's tough. It's a lot. I'm 30 years and I find new things. Like Titus, a couple months ago, y'all think way back. I don't think I've ever read Titus in my life before that. I'm going to be real. But it's jam-packed with what? Responsibility. From who? From us, the believers. So what is Titus? Titus's words is basically saying Jesus has already gave out this requirement. He gave out this requirement right now that I just read in 15. To what? Not just worry about yourself, but to what? Produce more of you, right? Even goes as far as to say in Matthew, the very end, right? The Great Commission, 28:19. Go into all the world and preach the gospel. This is Jesus' final commandment. Go into all the world, preach the gospel, baptizing them in what? The name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all my commandments, all my sayings. And lo, and if you do all that, then yeah, I'll be with you till the end of the age. It's the same thing he just said in 15. You must, in order to be a part of me, you have to be attached to me. How do you stay attached to me? How do you stay connected? You love God, you love Jesus, and you keep the commandments. So to reiterate, how does Peter say the easiest way to be a part of it is then? Peter's almost adding on, not that it needed anything, but Peter said, if you're sober and you are on alert, then nothing can happen to you. Nothing can waver you off the course. Because James, I say this all the time, James makes the guarantee that you're going to get tested. Count it all joy, right? The pastor just said it. Count it all joys, brothers and sisters, when you face various trials and testing. Because lo, that testing produces what? Patience or endurance. And what does that endurance produce? Faith. I don't say this almost like in a bad way. I wish I could kind of talk about God academically, but you know what I mean? Like it was math. But that's not the way it happens to me, at the very least. I know it's not how it happens to a lot of people around here. God is not just absent of emotion. Why? Because it has so much power in everything. Like I said, you go, I keep going on the 2,000 years of fulfillment of this very chapter of producing more and more and more and more throughout 2 millennium to where I sit, to people being born as we speak, will be born into families. They get to hear the word of God. They'll stumble into a church who was producing good fruit and produces more fruit out of a non-believer. That is how this works. There's more to it, certainly. But we're getting down to it as Jesus is leading almost. This is no longer a singular experience. This is for as many people as you can possibly get. But you teach them the right way. After the fact, you'll get, Satan, all his tricks. That's after, but for right now, what do I think God requires of us? It's pretty simple to me. Or else he wouldn't let me read some other chapter, some other book. He won't let me. Whether it's to me or nobody, whatever. That ain't my problem. My duty is to be in obedience. Right? Like I said at the beginning, the shibboleth. How can you tell who's really a part of this thing, of God and of Jesus, and who is not? Who is producing fruit and who is not? Jesus makes it very clear. How can I tell who is on my side and who is not? Because if you take John, this same John, his words later on in his little ones, he says, if you fall from a deceiver, it's nobody's fault but yours. You have everything you need. Right? There's no crying, no pleading. You have it. You have everything. Because when you are attached, you can ask whatever and you'll get it. You can produce more fruit. And that is the ultimate sign of how the church ought to be, quite frankly. I mean, but it was just it was calming in the sense to see all this evil in the world and to think and read this chapter again and again and again over the week and to think, Jesus kept saying, the world wants the world, right? Wicked people want more wicked people. They can't help it.
True.
But if you are of God, you are not a part of the wickedness. You cannot help but to be opposed to the wickedness, right? Because I've heard people say about whether it's politics, not having religion a part of it. I mean, I wish I agreed with you, but I don't. My duty is to help this thing keep going because it'll go whether I'm here or not. God will keep producing fruit or helping people produce fruit. Whether I'm there or not doesn't really matter. As evident, as I say every time, of Ryan Buggy, there was 3 people. You're the 3rd person. I was going to ask, meaning what? I was going to give the message to Africa anyway. I just needed somebody to do it. He's going to produce more fruit anyway. Whether or not you're a part of it is you. So I never know how to deplane. That seems to just be super intense. And then I'm done. I don't really know what to do. So, we got any? So, y'all want to say anything? You can have this one.
Hello, Saints. Just been sitting back listening to Tyler's Corner. Powerful stuff he's giving out. Matthew also tells us, Matthew 7, you'll know them by the fruit they bear. And did not Paul also write that in Galatians, the fruit of the Spirit? All of these things that Jesus spoke about. And we must continue on to be one of his disciples. How will we know? By the fruit we bear. That's how people will know us. They'll know that we're a disciple of Christ because we have love one for another. I want you to stay tuned for next week. Get ready. I believe God is up to something. Stay tuned for Tyler's Corner. Comment, let him know that you're enjoying what he's doing in the book of John. Get your young people together and let them listen to him. And we just want you to know if you have a prayer request, text us to us. We'll get it even after we off the air. And also, there's a phone number you can call. We'll get that also. We want you to know that we love you. We appreciate you watching and staying tuned in. Be with us tomorrow night right in the Tabernacle Sanctuary. We'll be coming to you live streaming again, and get somebody together, and we're going to see God move. We've got a lot of great testimonies coming in that God is doing great things. We love you. See you next week.